Before we begin, tap like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us uncover the darkest corners of the prison system. Now, let's step inside. Inside the Angola pipeline. How inmates are moved into America's largest prison farm, Angola, is not just a prison. It is the final destination of a system most people never see. Every year, thousands of inmates disappear from small county jails across Louisiana. Not through courtrooms, not through headlines, but through a quiet pipeline that moves them step by step into America's largest prison farm. This pipeline does not start at Angola. It starts long before that, inside local jails, classification offices, and transport schedules hidden from public view. One decision on a desk, one name added to a list, one early morning knock on a cell door, and suddenly, an inmate is on a road to a place where freedom is replaced by routine, silence, and control. Most inmates are never told when it will happen. Some are never told why. They only learn when officers say the same words every time. Pack your things. You're leaving. This documentary follows a hidden journey from the moment an inmate is selected to the transport routes to the gates of Angola itself. If you've ever wondered how inmates are really moved into Louisiana State Penitentiary, this is a story the system doesn't explain. Where the Angola pipeline really begins, the Angola pipeline does not begin at Angola. It begins quietly, inside small county and parish jails scattered across Louisiana. Places most people never think about. Places built to hold inmates temporarily, not for decades. These jails were never designed to manage long-term control. They are short on space, short on staff, and under constant pressure. Overcrowding is normal. Tension is routine. Every inmate is being watched, not just for what they've done, but for what they might do next. Inside these jails, deputies keep detailed records, behavior reports, incident logs, classification notes, medical flags, gang intelligence. None of it feels dramatic in the moment. Most of it looks like paperwork. But this paperwork is where the Angola pipeline begins. An inmate doesn't wake up one morning and get sent to Angola randomly. It usually starts with patterns: repeated discipline, violence toward other inmates, threats toward staff, escape concerns, inability to function inside a local jail without causing constant disruption. Sometimes it's not even extreme violence. Sometimes it's pressure. A jail that was built for 400 inmates might be holding 700. Staff are stretched thin. One difficult inmate can destabilize an entire housing unit. When that happens, administrators start looking for long-term solutions. And Angola is always there. Classification officers review inmate files regularly. They look at sentence length, charges, prior prison history, and current behavior. Inmates with short sentences usually stay local. Inmates with long sentences, serious charges, or ongoing issues begin to stand out. Not every inmate is suitable for Angola, but many are considered inevitable. An inmate serving decades or life does not belong in a parish jail forever. The system knows that. The pipeline exists to move those inmates out quietly and efficiently. The inmate rarely knows this process is happening. From his perspective, life looks the same. Same cell, same tier, same routine. He might hear rumors. He might suspect something. But no one tells him directly. Behind the scenes, his name starts appearing on lists. A classification review might include a single line: DOC transfer recommended. No explanation. No date. Just a note that places him on a path with very few exits. Once that note exists, the process begins to move forward. The Louisiana Department of Corrections coordinates with parish jails constantly. They track bed space at Angola. They monitor security needs. They plan transfers weeks in advance, sometimes months. But inmates are not told. This is intentional. If inmates knew exactly when transfers were coming, tensions would rise, fights would increase, escape attempts would become more likely. Silence keeps control. As transfer windows approach, paperwork becomes more active. Medical clearances are requested. Records are reviewed again. Any open court matters are checked to avoid legal complications. The inmate continues his routine, unaware that multiple offices are now involved in his future. When the decision is finalized, it does not come with a warning. It comes suddenly, usually early in the morning, sometimes before sunrise. A time chosen for calm, not convenience. Deputies approach the cell with professionalism, not emotion. They don't argue. They don't explain. Pack your property. That's often all that's said. For the inmate, confusion hits first, then realization. Parish jail transfers are common, but something about this feels different. The tone, the preparation, the restraints. Property is bagged quickly. Legal paperwork is checked. Medical needs are confirmed one last time. The inmate may ask questions. Most go unanswered, because at this point, the pipeline is already moving. Transport teams operate on schedules the public never sees. Vans are unmarked. Routes are planned to avoid attention. Movement are logged but not advertised. The inmate is restrained according to policy. Hands, waist, legs, every step designed to minimize risk. As the transport vehicle pulls away from the jail, something changes mentally for the inmate. Parish jails feel temporary, even when time drags. Angola does not. Most inmates know the reputation, the size, the isolation, the permanence. The ride is long, quiet, controlled. There is no conversation, no radio music, no explanation of where they're going, even if the inmate already suspects. The pipeline does not care about emotion. It cares about efficiency. Hours later, farmland begins to appear. Open land stretches for miles. Fences become more frequent. Guard towers come into view. This is when doubt turns into certainty. Angola is not hidden, but it feels distant from everything else. Deliberately so. The transport slows as it approaches the outer gate. Officers exit the vehicle. Paperwork is exchanged through secure windows. Names are checked. Numbers are verified. This is the moment where parish authority ends. Once clearance is given, the gate opens slowly. The vehicle enters. The gate closes behind it. That sound is final. Inside the Sally Port, bright lights reveal concrete walls, cameras, and uniformed officers waiting calmly. They are not rushed. They are not aggressive. They are prepared. The inmate steps down from a vehicle. Restraints are checked again. Identity is confirmed again. Every detail matters. Parish deputies hand over custody. Angola officers sign the transfer documents. From this moment forward, the inmate belongs to the state. No announcement is made. No ceremony occurs. Just a quiet exchange of responsibility that changes everything. The Angola pipeline has delivered another inmate. For the system, this is routine. For the inmate, life has just shifted permanently. This is not intake yet. This is only the arrival. And the most controlled part of the process is still ahead. Inside the transfer, what happens once a pipeline is activated once an inmate's name enters the Angola pipeline? The process does not pause. It becomes structured, coordinated, and deliberate. From the outside, transfers may look simple. An inmate is moved from one place to another. But inside the system, every transfer is treated as a risk operation. The goal is not speed. The goal is control. After the decision to move an inmate to Angola is finalized, parish officials and the Louisiana Department of Corrections begin coordinating quietly. This coordination rarely happens in one office. It stretches across classification departments, transport units, medical services, and administrative staff. Each group handles a specific piece of the process, often without direct contact with the inmate himself. The first priority is clearance. Before an inmate can be moved, the system must confirm that nothing will interfere with the transfer. Court dates are checked. Pending motions are reviewed. Medical conditions are verified. Any reason that could delay or complicate the move is addressed before the inmate ever leaves the parish jail. This is why transfers often happen without notice. The system moves when everything is ready, not when the inmate is prepared. Medical clearance is one of the most important steps. Angola does not accept inmates who are medically unstable. Parish medical staff review records and confirm current conditions. If the inmate is on medication, the dosage and schedule are documented. Any mental health history is flagged for review upon arrival. This is not done for comfort. It is done to avoid liability and disruption once the inmate reaches state custody. While this paperwork is happening, transport teams are being scheduled. These teams are trained specifically for long-distance inmate movement. They are familiar with restraint procedures, emergency protocols, and route security. Transport vehicles are checked thoroughly. Locks, partitions, seating restraints, and communication equipment are tested before departure. Routes are planned in advance, not for efficiency, but for predictability. Transport teams avoid high-traffic areas when possible. They avoid stops. They avoid drawing attention. Even fuel and rest considerations are planned, so the vehicle does not linger in public spaces. The inmate does not see any of this preparation. To him, everything appears sudden. When deputies arrive at the cell, it is often early in the day. Morning hours are preferred because the jail is calmer. Fewer inmates are awake. Fewer movements are happening. This reduces risk. The inmate is told to pack his property. Not everything, only what is allowed to travel. Items are inventoried carefully. Any mistake here can create problems later, so officers move slowly and methodically. Restraints are applied according to policy. Hands first, then the waist chain, then leg restraints. The goal is not punishment. It is stability. Inmate movement during transfer is one of the most dangerous moments for staff. The restraints exist to prevent sudden action, not to send a message. Once secured, the inmate is escorted out of the housing unit. Other inmates are kept away. Doors are cleared. Hallways are controlled. This minimizes contact and reduces the chance of confrontation. The inmate is placed into the transport vehicle. These vehicles are designed to isolate inmates from one another. Communication between inmates is limited. Movement inside the vehicle is restricted. The ride begins. Transport rides to Angola are long. The distance alone changes how inmates experience the process. Parish jails feel local. Angola feels remote. During the ride, officers remain focused. There is little conversation. No unnecessary stops. Every action is logged. Time, mileage, and location are tracked. If an emergency occurs, protocols are clear. But emergencies are rare because planning is thorough. For the inmate, the ride is mentally heavy. There is nothing to do but think. No phone, no conversation, no distractions. Most inmates already know where they're going. Angola's reputation is well known inside Louisiana jails. The size, the isolation, the long sentences, the sense that once you arrive, you do not leave. As farmland replaces neighborhoods, that reality becomes harder to ignore. The transport vehicle slows as it approaches Angola. This is not an accident. Speed is reduced well before the gate to allow final checks. Officers communicate with intake staff. Identification is confirmed again. When the vehicle reaches the outer gate, movement stops. Officers step out. Paperwork is exchanged. Clearance is verified. Only then does the gate open. This moment is critical. Once the vehicle passes through and the gate closes behind it, parish authority ends. The inmate is no longer under local control. Inside the Sally Port, the environment changes immediately. Lighting is brighter. Cameras are visible. Officers are waiting, already briefed on the inmate's arrival. The inmate is removed from the vehicle carefully. Restraints are checked again. Identity is confirmed again. There is no assumption that earlier checks were sufficient. This repetition is intentional. Angola does not rely on trust. It relies on verification. Custody transfer occurs quietly. Parish officers hand over documentation. Angola officers sign. There is no discussion, no commentary. From this moment forward, the inmate is a state inmate. The transport team's role ends here. They do not follow the inmate inside. They do not stay to observe intake. Their job is complete. The inmate is now Angola's responsibility. For the system, this is one successful transfer among many. For the inmate, it is the end of one phase of incarceration and the beginning of another, one that feels far more permanent. This chapter of the pipeline is about movement, but it is also about separation. The inmate is separated from the parish jail, separated from familiar routines, separated from any illusion of temporary confinement. By the time the intake doors open, the pipeline has already done its work. The inmate has been delivered. What happens next is not about travel anymore. It is about evaluation, control, and placement inside one of the most structured prison environments in the country. And that process is even more controlled than the transfer itself. Intake without ceremony. How Angola takes possession once the transport phase ends. The Angola pipeline does not slow down. It becomes quieter, tighter, and more controlled. There is no announcement when an inmate enters the intake building. No speech. No explanation of what will happen next. The system assumes compliance, not consent. The inmate is escorted away from the Sally Port and into a bright, sterile interior space. The contrast is immediate. Outside, Angola feels wide and open, almost rural. Inside intake, everything feels compressed and deliberate. Walls are clean. Floors are polished. Cameras are visible from every angle. This is not a place designed to intimidate through force. It intimidates through precision. The inmate is directed where to stand, when to move, when to stop. Officers speak in short, clear instructions. No one raises their voice. No one rushes. The pace is slow enough to prevent mistakes, but firm enough to leave no room for interpretation. At this point, the inmate has already been restrained for hours. Fatigue begins to show. Shoulders slump. Movement slow. But the system does not adjust for exhaustion. Intake continues on schedule. The first task inside intake is verification. Again, identity is confirmed using multiple methods. Name, DOC number, date of birth, fingerprints, photographs. Each step is checked against state records. If anything does not match, the process stops until it is resolved. Angola does not absorb uncertainty. For inmates, this repetition can feel excessive, but from the institution's perspective, errors at this stage can follow an inmate for decades. A misidentified file, a missed medical note, a wrong classification. All of these can create serious problems later. So intake moves carefully. After identity verification, the inmate is escorted to medical screening. This is not treatment. It is evaluation. The purpose is to establish a baseline and to identify immediate risks. Vital signs are taken: blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, weight. Medical staff observe posture, speech, and coordination. They ask simple questions about current conditions and medications. The inmate may answer honestly. He may minimize issues. He may exaggerate. Medical staff are trained to read between answers. Withdrawal symptoms, untreated mental illness, and hidden injuries are common in long-term transfers. Angola wants to know what it is receiving before the inmate enters housing. If something appears concerning, the inmate is flagged. That flag does not disappear. It follows him into classification and housing decisions. Once medical screening is complete, property processing begins. This moment often feels more personal than anything else that has happened so far. The inmate's belongings are placed on a stainless steel table. Everything he arrived with from the Parish jail is now laid out in front of him. Clothes, legal paperwork, letters, photographs, small personal items. An officer sorts through each item methodically. Some things are approved. Many are not. Items that were allowed in Parish jail may not be allowed at Angola. Items that carried emotional value are reduced to policy decisions. Keep, store, discard. Nothing about this process is emotional from the officer's perspective. It cannot be. Emotional decision-making creates inconsistency, and inconsistency creates risk. For the inmate, this is often the moment when the separation from his old life becomes real. After property is processed, the inmate is instructed to change into Angola-issued clothing. The uniform is plain and identical to thousands of others. No personal choice. No variation. The design is intentional. Uniformity reduces conflict. It removes visible status differences. When the inmate finishes changing, he does not look like he did that morning. The transformation is subtle but powerful. The Parish jail version of himself is gone. Phones are taken. Any remaining personal connections are removed. From this point forward, all communication will follow Angola's schedule and rules. The inmate is then escorted to a holding area. This space is simple and uncomfortable by design. Bright lights, hard surfaces, no clock, no distractions, no sense of time passing. This waiting period serves two purposes. First, it allows staff to complete paperwork and coordination without rushing. Angola does not move inmates until every step is confirmed. Second, it allows officers to observe behavior under pressure. How does the inmate handle waiting? Does he sit calmly? Does he pace? Does he attempt to communicate unnecessarily? Does frustration show? These details matter. They are recorded quietly and used later. Hours may pass here. The inmate does not know the time. He does not know when he will be moved. He does not know where he will be housed. That uncertainty is not accidental. Angola wants to see how inmates respond when control is removed from their hands completely. Eventually, classification begins. The inmate is escorted into a small office. A classification officer sits behind a desk, reviewing a file that is already thick with information. This is not a conversation designed to gather facts. Most of the facts are already known. The questions are brief. Any enemies? Any gang affiliations? Any safety concerns? The inmate may attempt to explain himself. He may try to appear cooperative. He may say very little. What he says matters less than how he says it. Classification officers pay attention to tone, posture, eye contact, and patience. They are trained to detect manipulation, instability, and aggression without confrontation. Separation is a major concern. Angola houses thousands of inmates, but certain individuals cannot be placed near one another. Past conflicts, co-defendants, gang rivalries, and disciplinary histories are all considered. A mistake at this stage can lead to violence later. Custody level is assigned. This decision determines how restricted the inmate's movement will be and what type of housing he will enter initially. Most new arrivals are placed under higher supervision until staff can observe them over time. The classification interview ends without explanation. The inmate is escorted back to holding. This wait is often the most stressful part of intake. The decision has been made, but the inmate does not know what it is. His mind fills the silence with questions he cannot answer. Where am I going? How strict will it be? Will I be alone? Will I be safe? Angola does not answer these questions in advance. The system moves on its own schedule. By the time the inmate is finally called again, the Angola pipeline has completed its most important task. The inmate has been evaluated, categorized, and placed within a structure that will govern his daily life. He may not understand the decision yet, but the institution does. This is the point where the pipeline stops being about movement and becomes about control. And the most personal part of the process is still ahead. The first placement, where the pipeline ends and prison life begins when officers return for the inmate. There is no warning and no explanation. The moment feels quiet, almost ordinary. Stand up. By now, the inmate's body is tired. He has been restrained, processed, questioned, and waiting for hours. Time has lost meaning. But this movement feels different. This is not intake anymore. The inmate is restrained again, following the same routine as before. Calm hands. Check locks. No rush. Officers do not speak more than necessary. They already know where he is going. As they escort him away from holding, the intake area disappears behind heavy doors. The building sounds change. The echo shifts. The air feels cooler. This walk is the inmate's first real exposure to Angola itself. The prison feels enormous now. Wide corridors stretch longer than expected. Doors open and close electronically. Officers are positioned at intersections, watching movement carefully. Other inmates pass in controlled lines, eyes forward, speaking only when permitted. Nothing here feels temporary. The inmate notices how space is used. Everything is spread out. Distance replaces crowding. Angola does not compress people the way parish jails do. It isolates them. This design is intentional. Eventually, the escort slows. The officers stop in front of another steel door. One officer keys in a code. The door opens. This is the housing unit. The sounds are different here. Lower, steadier, the constant rhythm of a place that runs on routine. Voices are distant. Metal doors open and close at measured intervals. The inmate is guided inside and led down a tier. Other cells line the walls. Some inmates are visible. Some are not. Most do not look up. They already know what this moment means. Restraints are removed carefully. Officers step back. Then the door closes. The sound is heavy and unmistakable. It does not slam. It seals. For the first time since the pipeline began, the inmate is alone. The cell is simple. A metal bunk, a thin mattress, a sink and toilet made of steel, a small shelf, a light that stays on. There is nothing personal, nothing familiar, nothing comforting. This is where the reality of Angola settles in. For many inmates, this moment hits harder than the transport, harder than intake, harder than classification. Until now, everything has felt procedural, controlled, temporary. Now it feels permanent. Some inmates sit immediately exhausted. Others stand still, scanning the walls, measuring the space without realizing it. Some pace slowly, counting steps. Thoughts begin to surface without restraint. How long will I be here? What kind of unit is this? How strict is it? What happens if I mess up? No one answers. Shortly after placement, count is conducted. Officers walk the tier, stopping briefly at each cell. They look in, verify presence, and move on. This first count matters. It shows whether the inmate understands compliance without explanation, whether he follows instructions, whether he remains calm. Angola notices these details immediately. As evening approaches, the unit settles. Lights dim slightly but never go off. Sounds soften but never disappear. Radios crackle. Doors close in the distance. From inside the cell, the inmate hears Angola for the first time. The sounds of a prison built for long-term confinement. Sleep does not come easily. The mattress feels thin. The room feels smaller now that the door is closed. Every sound feels amplified. Some inmates drift in and out of sleep. Others stay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day. Officers continue to observe throughout the night. Movement inside the cell, repeated pacing, talking to oneself. Any sign of distress. This is not punishment. It is prevention. Angola wants to know how a new inmate handles silence, isolation, and uncertainty. These hours reveal more than any interview ever could. By the time night deepens, the inmate has learned something important without anyone explaining it to him. At Angola, control does not end when the door closes. It becomes quieter, and it becomes constant. The pipeline has delivered him to his place. The system has accepted him. What remains is adjustment. And morning is coming. The first morning, when the pipeline becomes routine morning at Angola, does not announce itself. It arrives quietly on schedule, the same way it does every day. Before the inmate fully wakes up, the unit is already moving. Footsteps echo down the tier. Radios click softly. Keys turn in locks. This is count. The inmate stands where he was told to stand the night before. He does not need to be reminded. Officers walk past the cell, check his presence, and move on without comment. The process is efficient and emotionless. This is how Angola measures control, not through force, but through consistency. By the time count is complete, the inmate understands something important. His day will begin and end this way for as long as he remains here. Nothing about the schedule will change for him. After count, the unit settles into motion. Doors open in sequence. Movement is controlled. Orders are short and clear. Inmates who hesitate are corrected calmly. Inmates who comply are barely noticed. Angola does not reward attention-seeking behavior. It rewards quiet compliance. Breakfast follows soon after. A tray is delivered through the slot or handed during control movement. The food is basic. Portions are exact. There are no choices, no substitutions. For many inmates, this is the first meal since the transfer began. But the significance of the meal goes beyond hunger. This tray marks the end of intake. From this moment on, life at Angola is no longer transitional. It is routine. As the inmate eats, officers continue to observe how he handles instructions, whether he follows movement rules, whether he attempts to speak when he should not. These small behaviors matter more than inmates realize. Angola watches patterns, not moments. Later in the morning, basic information is communicated, not through a formal orientation, but through brief instructions and observation. The inmate learns when showers happen, when recreation is allowed, how requests are made, and what behavior leads to trouble. No one explains the rules in detail. The inmate is expected to learn quickly. By now, the emotional intensity of arrival has faded. The fear is no longer sharp. The confusion has settled into something quieter. Acceptance. The inmate begins to notice the rhythm of the unit. When inmates move, when they stay still, how officers respond to different behaviors. He watches, listens, and adjusts. This mental shift is critical. Inmates who resist structure struggle early. Inmates who adapt draw less attention. As the morning continues, Angola completes its final intake steps quietly. Housing placement is confirmed. Classification notes are logged. Observation reports are finalized. There is no announcement when intake officially ends. It simply stops being mentioned. By late morning, the inmate is no longer considered new. He is just another inmate inside a system built to run without pause. The Angola pipeline has finished its work. The inmate may not fully understand what decisions were made during the past 24 hours. He may never know how closely he was observed or how many notes were written about his behavior. But the institution knows. From this point forward, days will begin the same way. Counts, meals, movement, silence, repetition. The uncertainty of arrival has been replaced by predictability. At Angola, that predictability is not comfort. It is control. The pipeline does not need to explain itself. It only needs to keep moving. And somewhere else in Louisiana, another inmate's name is already being added to the list. When the pipeline disappears, the system remains. The Angola pipeline is designed to be invisible. There are no public announcements, no explanations given to people inside it, and no moment where the system pauses to ask how the inmate feels about what's happening. From the outside, it looks like a simple transfer. From the inside, it is a carefully controlled process that decides where a person fits inside one of the most powerful prison systems in America. By the time an inmate reaches his first morning at Angola, the pipeline has already done its job. His behavior has been measured. His risks have been evaluated. His place inside the prison has been chosen. From that point forward, life becomes routine. Counts happen at the same times. Movement follows the same rules. Silence becomes normal. Days blend into one another. Most inmates will never know how many decisions were made before they ever stepped into their cell. They will never see the paperwork, the notes, or the quiet meetings that shaped their future. But the system remembers. Because Angola is not just a destination. It is the final step in a process built to move people quietly, efficiently, and permanently. And while one inmate begins adjusting to routine, another name is already moving to the pipeline. Unseen, unheard, and unstoppable. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more real, research-based prison documentaries that show what really happens behind the gates.